Join our community by subscribing. Every click helps us share more stories like this one. The introduction. On the chilly morning of January 15th, 2015, the small town of Maplewood awoke to breaking news that would ripple through its close-knit community for years to come. In the heart of this idyllic suburban enclave, nestled between colonial-style homes and manicured lawns, lay Maplewood Elementary School, a place where laughter echoed in hallways and the scent of fresh-cut oranges wafted through the cafeteria. But that morning, the familiar hum of children's voices was replaced by a harrowing silence. It was just after 8 a.m. when the school principal, Mr. Thompson, received an alarming call. A custodian reported discovering something amiss in the first-grade classroom. The details were vague, but the custodian's voice wobbled with anxiety. Something was not right. Within minutes, the atmosphere shifted from normalcy to chaos. Teachers hushed their classes. Parents began to worry as the school day had not yet truly begun. As police vehicles lit up the school's parking lot, a group of parents gathered outside, nerves tightening with each passing moment. By the time law enforcement officials revealed the situation inside room 101, the hysteria had spilled onto the streets. There, in that room, lay a scene that would haunt Maplewood for decades, to follow a 7-year-old boy. Sam Anderson was found lifeless, a victim of what police believed to be foul play. The town had always felt safe, shielded by its quaint facade, but that morning, innocence shattered. Hushed whispers filled the air, each parent clutching their children a little tighter. Each glance toward the school, a reminder of the fragile veil of protection they had taken for granted. A single question lingered amid the dread. Who could do such a thing? The victim. Sam Anderson was known for his bright, infectious smile and an insatiable curiosity that delighted his teachers and peers alike. At 7 years old, he had a way of making the world seem larger, his boundless energy illuminating the dim corners of everyday life. His laughter could often be heard weaving through the playground as he chased after his friends, his small frame darting between swings and slides. Those who crossed his path couldn't help but notice his oversized baseball kappa, favorite gift from his father, embroidered with the words, "Future MVP." At home, Sam was the centerpiece of his family's world. His mother, Lisa, often shared stories of how he meticulously organized his toy cars by color and size, a testament to his innate organizational skills that contradicted his whimsical nature. His father, Greg, spoke of their fishing trips by the quiet lake just outside the town, where Sam would always cast his line with the steadfast focus of an experienced angler, despite it often being his father who would reel in the fish. But beyond the glimmers of joy lay a complexity that few saw pressure to always shine. In a town that valued success and achievement, Sam, even at his young age, carried the sword of expectation on his small shoulders. Friends recalled moments when he would stay late at school to practice reading their homework, his smile never fading, even as it caused him to miss out on carefree moments. As news of his death spread, friends and family struggled to reconcile the image of the vibrant boy they knew with the tragic reality before them. With their hearts heavy and confusion mounting, they couldn't understand why someone would want to hurt such a radiant soul. For them, Sam was more than a victim. He was the embodiment of innocence, now forever lost to a haunting shadow they could not explain. The crime scene. Inside room 101, The scene was one of chaos concealed beneath a chilling stillness. The first-grade classroom was decorated with brightly colored hangings, the alphabet displayed in cartoonish letters, and hand-drawn art lining the walls. Remnants of laughter and learning. These cheerful embellishments starkly contrasted the grim discovery made just moments earlier. Panic had erupted among staff members as the custodian called for help. Now, with the police present, the air felt thick, laced with the metallic tinge of unease. Detective Ann Roberts, a seasoned investigator with a reputation for her meticulous nature, was called to the scene. Even she, with her years of experience, felt a cold shudder down her spine as she crossed the threshold. Sam's small body lay motionless near a cluster of half-finished art projects, as if he had been interrupted mid-creation. Crayons scattered like fallen leaves, their pigments vibrant against the stark white floor. It was a jarring cacophony of life frozen in an instant. The investigators noted his positioning in an unusual angle that heightened the distressing nature of the event. As forensic technicians arrived, sweeping the room with careful precision, they methodically documented evidence photographs capturing the heart-wrenching tableau before them. Detective Roberts scanned the room, taking in every detail. A broken window, latched from the inside, raising immediate questions. Had someone snuck in, or had Sam known his assailant? Beyond the physical evidence, the palpable tension was unmistakable. The hushed voices of officers echoed within the walls as they communicated with one another, discussing the likelihood of a fight or the absence of struggle, which seemed strangely perplexing. In one corner of the classroom, a red backpack sat abandoned, propped against a desk. It contained Sam's belongings, his lunchbox, a scribbled note from his mother, and a small stuffed animal. The nostalgia of the everyday presence highlighted the stark tragedy. Detective Roberts knew instinctively that the answers resided not only in the evidence but also within the community. The faces of parents outside the school, illuminated by flashing lights, emanated confusion and heartache. In this quiet town where life thrives, she realized, someone harbored a secret, and uncovering it would be a race against time. The early investigation. As the sun rose higher in the sky, casting long shadows over the schoolyard of Maplewood Elementary, the investigation began to unfold like a tightly wound thread, slowly unraveling into a tangled web of intrigue and fear. Detectives had cordoned off the area, blocking off entrances with yellow tape that stood in stark contrast to the cheerful colors of the school. Outside, journalists flocked to the scene, cameras flashing as parents whispered anxiously amongst themselves, searching for answers that eluded them. Detective Roberts knew the clock was ticking. With every moment wasted, the memories of Sam Anderson became more fragile, needing to be enveloped in careful gathering and preservation. She appointed her team to canvass the area for witnesses, immediately reaching out to teachers who had been in the vicinity during the unfolding events, tapping into their recollections of what transpired. Mrs. Lee, Sam's first-grade teacher, was among the first to provide her account. Her eyes were swollen with tears as she recounted the morning rituals, the excited chatter of students, the collective anticipation of a new school day. He was just laughing and telling me about the baseball game last night, she said, her voice trembling. The memories she recounted felt surreal, overshadowed by the imminent finality of what could never occur again. Meanwhile, Officer Jackson, a rookie on the force but eager to prove himself, scoured the playground for potential surveillance footage. Reports of an open window had triggered suspicions of an intruder. He spoke to maintenance staff and checked some of the local businesses facing the school, pleading for any scrap of information that could string together a timeline leading up to Sam's untimely death. What emerged soon painted a hazy picture. What emerged soon painted a hazy picture. Two other children had reported seeing a man lurking by the playground just before the bell rang, but descriptions were vague and differed wildly. One persistent shadow might have been a figment of imagination fueled by childhood fear. Detective Roberts knew they would need to revisit these accounts, carefully sifting through fragments of data, no matter how small, to find the truth. As the afternoon crept in, the investigation shifted gears. Detectives began interviewing Sam's family and friends, attempting to pinpoint any changes in his life, any threats he may have faced. Could there have been a grudge? Bullying? Each question carried weight, tethered tightly to the heart of a community that had trusted its safety, now brimming with uncertainty and sorrow. Detective Roberts pulled her notebook tightly against her chest, knowing that this nascent investigation could lead them into the depths of the boy's young life, one that held secrets, friendships, and perhaps the key to understanding why a child had to die. The dead ends. Days slipped by, each one blending seamlessly into the next as detectives immersed themselves in a relentless pursuit of clarity amidst the chaos. The community of Maplewood had shadowed the investigation closely, their concerns surfacing like bubbling lava waiting to overflow. Whispers of potential suspects circulated, yet each lead seemed to drain into a bottomless pit of dead ends. Detective Roberts felt the weight of responsibility growing heavier with every fruitless hour spent in the dim light of their precinct. In the midst of a relentless barrage of interviews, she had learned about Sam's closest friend, Tom. He had once told Sam about a new kid at school, someone who didn't mesh well with the other students. Yet when detectives sought Tommy out, he could provide little detailed information, leaving them blanketed in uncertainty. Meanwhile, Officer Jackson delved into the report of the man spotted near the playground, canvassing the area repeatedly for any sign of him. The descriptions were too vague. One said he wore a baseball cap, while another claimed to have seen a red jacket. Each cluster of details dissolved into confusion, and the image of an elusive figure transformed into a mirage that slipped further away with each attempt to grasp it. Just when they thought they were getting closer, they hit a wall. Security footage from the school had recorded nothing useful. The angles were limited, and the timing played tricks, with no evidence confirming a person had entered or exited that day. The cameras would prove too limited to yield any significant leads, leaving only the haunting silhouettes of shadows on screen. In a glimmer of hope, a neighbor reported seeing a home in the area where strange noises had emerged during the night leading up to Sam's death. However, another early morning visit proved fruitless as the occupants, a family of 4 who had lived there for years, were cooperative and had a rock-solid alibi. It became increasingly clear that each lead was merely another branch on a tree that led back to its trunk, a trunk forever shrouded in ambiguity. The weight of disappointment among the team intensified. Detective Roberts knew all too well that in cases like this, time was the enemy. And yet, even under the pressure, the community clung to hope, lighting candles in Sam's memory as they continued to search for him. As the nights grew longer and the shadows of indecision lengthened, the question echoed louder. Would they unearth the truth, or remain stranded in a suffocating labyrinth of unknowns? A break in the case. After weeks of frustration, a glimmer of hope emerged unexpectedly as Detective Roberts reviewed a collection of witness statements late one eaten. While the physical evidence had failed to provide any answers, the words of a seemingly inconsequential neighbor began to weave a new narrative. Mrs. Henderson, an elderly woman who lived across the street, had reported seeing a group of children playing near the school on the day of the incident. But she also mentioned hearing an argument coming from the nearby alley, just moments before the nearby alley. Commotion erupted. Roberts leaned forward, her heart racing as she paged through Mrs. Henderson's statement again. The old woman had speculated about a pair of teenagers who had recently been seen loitering around the school, a place notoriously unwelcoming to older kids. At the mention of a fight, a new sense of urgency ignited within her. This could be the thread they had yearned for. The following morning, Detective Roberts and Officer Jackson set out to dig deeper into the local teen population. They visited the high school and spoke with staff about any unusual incidents or complaints involving older students. The principal confirmed that two brothers, Pete and Ryan Collins, had been flagged for bullying younger children, particularly in the context of sports. With this information in hand, they spoke with students who were willing to share their stories. Rumors about the Collins brothers surfaced quickly. Tales of pranks escalated into harassment, painted a picture of two boys whose aggression often manifested in sit-back-and-watch cruelty. But hauntingly, no one seemed to connect their antics with Sam, leaving Roberts to wonder, had they crossed a line they could never return from? Driven by renewed determination, Roberts obtained a recent photo of the Collins brothers. With the timeliness of Sam's last day in mind, she reviewed the school's security footage thoroughly. She would find a way to connect the dots. It was then, a week later, that a school staff member noticed something odd. A frame in which two boys were seen lurking near the playground, looking around nervously as the bell rang. Detective Roberts felt her heart skip as she studied their faces more closely. This was the break they had been waiting for, the first real hint that pointed toward a potential suspect. She immediately convened a meeting with her team, their energy shifting from exhaustion to adrenaline-fueled anticipation. As they planned their approach to the Collins family, it was clear that they were edging closer to unveiling the truth behind Sam's tragic death. Each second that passed felt heavier, with the knowledge that they were not only pursuing justice, but were also racing against the clock in a small town forever altered. The suspect, with a renewed sense of purpose, Detective Roberts gathered her team in the precinct to formulate a plan. They all understood that approaching the Collins brothers could potentially yield either their strongest lead or a dangerous setback. After weighing their options, they decided to pay a visit to the Collins residence that evening, hoping to find the boys at home and begin their line of questioning. The air was thick with tension as they arrived at the two-story suburban home, its exterior well-kept, but sprouting a sense of predatory vigilance. As they approached the door, the faint sounds of laughter and noisy millennial pop music flowed from inside, the kind of noise that felt incongruous with their grim purpose. When they identified themselves to the young woman who answered the dormers, Collins, the boy's mother, the immediately apparent hostility hung like a storm cloud. Her face tightened, revealing a sense of apprehension. Detective Roberts flattened her stance, projecting confidence while sounding compassionate. "We'd like to talk to your sons about some recent events at Maplewood Elementary." Mrs. Collins hesitated, her instinct to protect her children evident as she opened the door wider. Soon thereafter, Pete and Ryan appeared, their demeanor strikingly different in front of law enforcement than in the light of an innocent schoolyard. Shorter than expected, with sharp features that mirrored each other, their glances darted between their mother and the detectives, a flicker of defiance against the tension in the air. Roberts led the questioning, carefully navigating the terrain of their motivations and interactions with younger kids. We've heard that you both sometimes spend time near the playground after school. Can you tell us what you were doing around that time on January 15th? The brothers exchanged nervous glances, their bravado quickly smothered by icy dread. Pete was the first to speak up, his voice shaky, tinged with irritation. We went to play basketball. We didn't even notice anything until people started freaking out. Ryan, however, stared at the ground and muttered something inaudible, the weight of his brother's bravado crushing beneath the intentionality of the conversation. Detective Roberts pressed further, asking pointed questions about their relationships with younger children. They were clearly avoiding eye contact, an instinctual tell that only served to deepen Robert's conviction. As the brothers stumbled through their answers, inconsistencies flickered through their stories like faded film reels, slowly illuminating a possible connection to Sam. Roberts could feel the adrenaline rushing as the realization sunk in. There was a raw undercurrent of fear masking something deeper. After a final exchange of questions, they let the brothers leave. But a small sound break something akin to panic lingered over the evening's proceedings. Roberts knew she needed to dig deeper. The veneer of confidence displayed by the Collins boys hinted at much darker undercurrents, and the way their mother had fidgeted during their questioning unveiled a family dynamic full of potential secrets waiting to be uncovered. Their gaze had shifted away from the pleasure of childhood, bloodying the innocence of those who dared to dance too close. As the sun sank below the horizon that night, a dark, insidious chill spread through Maplewood, a town now facing a harsh truth revealing itself in layers, slowly and perilously. The trial. Nearly 8 months had passed since the tragic day that extinguished the bright light of Sam Anderson's life. The town of Maplewood had transformed in that time. Mourners still gathered at memorials, adorned with flowers and candles, while tension simmered just beneath the surface, waiting to erupt. As the trial against Pete and Ryan Collins approached, the town braced itself for the harrowing details that were about to unfold in the courtroom. Inside the high-ceilinged courthouse, the air felt thick with anticipation, a palpable energy that rippled through the gallery. Detective Roberts watched as friends and family of Sam filled the rows, their faces contorted between hope and despair. They were there to seek justice, to understand what had happened that fateful morning that would forever change the fabric of their community. As proceedings commenced, the prosecution laid out a chilling narrative. Sam had been cornered by the brothers in the alley behind the school, harsh words quickly evolving into a physical confrontation that left Sam defenseless. They aimed to paint a picture not just of violence, but of deliberate intent, suggesting that this was more than a mere playground squabble, was an act of cruelty across the line from which there would be no return. Each witness, from friends who had seen the brothers bullying younger kids, teachers who had warned about their volatile behavior, contributed pieces of the puzzle. The testimony of Mrs. Anderson, Sam's mother, resonated critically in the courtroom. Her voice, choked with grief, recounted how she had woken each morning with Sam's laughter filling their home, how she had danced with him in the kitchen, and how that vibrant life was now forever extinguished. As the defense took the floor, Pete and Ryan appeared rigid, whispering hurriedly to their attorney, their usual bravado deflated. They claimed the confrontation had been an accident and unexpected escalation that spiraled out of control. Their assurance crumbled with each stammered rebuttal, hunched shoulders betraying the bravado they had once exhibited. Days of testimony bled into one another, and the emotional toll on the town became undeniable. The residents of Maplewood, once unified in their grief, now felt division sizzle beneath their skin as sympathetic whispers shuffled through the crowd. Some believed in the innocence of the brothers. Others couldn't ignore the cascade of increasing evidence painting a bleak portrait of their culpability. When the day of closing arguments arrived, Robert sat at the front, her heart heavy. The prosecutor implored the jury to recognize that there was a deeper issue at play, the need for accountability, not just for Sam, but for the larger implications of bullying and aggression that seemed to seep through every crack in their environment. As the verdict awaited, silence blanketed the courtroom. The members of the jury re-entered with solemn expressions etched across their faces. Detective Roberts held her breath, aware that whatever decision they reached would sculpt Maplewood's future. However, the chips fell. A shadow of the tragic loss loomed large, intertwining the fates of both the victim and those who had brought his life to a chilling end. The community had unknowingly prepared itself for this moment since the very first echoes of Sam's laughter had faded, now facing the consequences that would define them all. The aftermath. As the courtroom doors swung shut behind the jury, a collective sigh rippled through the gallery. Detective Roberts felt as if time had slowed to a complete standstill. The verdict, whether guilty or innocent, carried heavy consequence not only for Pete and Ryan Collins, but for the entire community of Maplewood. Forever changed by the shadow of a tragedy that weighed heavily on their collective conscience. When the verdict was announced guilty on all charges, the courtroom erupted into a cacophony of mixed reactions. Some parents wept openly, relief flooding over them as they grasped their small children tighter, while others sat in stunned silence. The reality of punitive measures settled darkly within them. The Collins brothers looked defeated, their eyes hollow as they faced the inevitable consequences of their actions, their childhoods abruptly stolen. Following the verdict, Detective Roberts trudged through the crowded hallways of the courthouse, filled with a grief that went beyond sadness. Though justice had been served, the ramifications would echo for years. Media coverage and public interest surged, but for the residents of Maplewood, the headlines simply masked lingering anger. Over the following weeks, the community gathered in small group church basements, and community centers became spaces for healing. They spoke about their hopes and fears, sharing not just the burden of loss, but the responsibility that lay ahead to prevent another tragedy. The scars ran deep. Broken trust had splintered friendships as neighbors wrestled with complicated emotions toward the Collins family, and their own vulnerability schooled their children be safe again. Parents began seeking counseling and workshops on anger management and anti-bullying programs to reinforce a dialogue they knew needed to be had. Roberts organized meetings with local educators, pushing for strategies that would help children learn to express their emotions adequately and resolve conflicts without resorting to violence. Along the path of healing, memorials for Sam blossomed across the town, each candlelight vigil a reminder of his vibrant spirit. The initial pain felt insurmountable, but slowly they understood the power of community in shaping resilience. A month later, atop the school's playground, a newly installed bench adorned with Sam's name became a gathering, a silent promise from the town to honor the light he had brought into their lives, turning every laugh into a promise to recognize the The value of every child's life. Though the Collins brothers faced their sentences, truth and accountability were not enough to weave back together the threads of innocence that had been torn. Detective Roberts watched from the sidelines as the healing continued, the community desperately trying to understand how to navigate grief while forging a path toward unity. The road ahead remained daunting. The shadows of the past were undeniable, but the spirit of resilience echoed in every heart that beat in Maplewood, where children played again a testament that even in the darkest times, hope could light the way forward. The memory of Sam Anderson remained nestled in their hearts, a guiding light pushing them toward a safer, more compassionate future. Reflection. In the weeks following the trial, as winter melted into spring, the town of Maplewood began to transform yet again. Detective Roberts found herself taking long walks through the familiar streets, contemplating the ripple effect of the events that had transpired. The once quiet town had been marred by tragedy, but was also redefining itself, turning grief into a mission for empowerment and understanding. Conversations shifted within families. Parents became more aware, engaging with their children in earnest discussions about empathy and kindness. Impromptu gatherings formed in backyards, stirring hope in a community that struggled to heal. Detective Roberts often encountered children playing with newfound awareness, stopping their disputes before they swelled, working together to foster an environment free of aggression. However, Roberts also faced her demons. With every step she took, she couldn't shake the haunting echoes of lost childhood. Sam's image, that vibrant smile and infectious laughter, flickered through her mind, a constant reminder of the fragility of youth. She discovered that in its aftermath, justice didn't eliminate pain. It reshaped it, preparing resilience to sprout from the ground once watered with sorrow. The town continued to rally around initiatives such as youth forums and empowerment programs, driving home the importance of standing up for one another. Maplewood had discovered something powerful. It was not just about the fight for justice. It was about finding a way back to innocence while ensuring that no child would ever feel alone again. In those reflective moments, Roberts understood that the scars of the past would never fully fade, but they could transform into guiding lights, illuminating the path toward a more compassionate future. For Maplewood, the journey was far from over. It was just the beginning, a commitment to nurture and protect the lives that blossomed within its embrace.